for Education.
Sir, I am really pleased to have the opportunity to talk to the House about some of the investments that the government has been making in educational projects and, importantly, some of the outcomes that are being achieved. I am interested to hear from the Shadow Treasurer that the government stimulus projects are not supported by Labor because he says that the debt is too much, the borrowings are too much, and the pandemic obviously has not occurred in the Shadow Treasurer and the Labor Party's mind because, of course, the level of debt and the level of investment in this budget is commensurate with the challenge at hand. I also note that the Labor Party's blinkers are clearly well and truly on when they say that none of the projects promised under this government or announced in budgets have happened, when literally hundreds of projects in the Education Department alone have been commenced and completed in the last couple of years. Indeed, this year alone we announced 380 programs in preschools for maintenance opportunities, more than 100 extra school maintenance projects, tens of millions of dollars invested in projects where shovels have been in the ground, where paintbrushes have been on the wall, where roofing tilers have been on the roof. I don't think that one's going to catch on. And the work has been done, the jobs have been delivered, and those preschools and schools have been upgraded. And that's been an outstanding outcome for those schools and those preschools and those students. And when we think of the young people of South Australia, well, we want a couple of things. We want them to be safe and well and protected and cared for and looked after when they're at school or preschool or in any childhood setting, in any service setting. We want them to get a great education. We want the facilities that they're in to have the dignity that they deserve. To give them the dignity they deserve, and we want the delivery of the content of whether it's the curriculum or the project or the service to be of a very high quality. We want it to have an impact on their future. We want them to be able to, throughout their life, achieve in the areas that draw their passion, that impact their love. And it is absolutely a commitment of this government to give our children those opportunities and give them what they need so that they can succeed in life. I talked a little bit in question time about literacy and numeracy, and I want to talk a little bit more about that because, of course, during 2018, the South Australian government delivered the first phonics screening check that was delivered to all government students in Year 1 in South Australia across the state. It was the first time that had been done across a whole state ever. And indeed, I note that the hundreds of schools in South Australia that have now been doing it for 3 times since the third term of 2018 are being joined by more than 1,000 schools across Australia who are taking up either the New South Wales and Tasmanian government's trial or indeed the Commonwealth's free voluntary phonics screening check for schools. And they're doing this because they can see in South Australia the dramatic impact it's having on the teaching of literacy, the teaching of reading and writing in our schools. Phonics isn't the only thing. It's not a silver bullet, but it is one of the 6 key things that enables every child, not just those children who are doing well without the support, but every child to have the best chance of learning to read, to be able to decode the language so that when they are confronted with text that they haven't seen before, they are able to form that word and to be able to read that word and to be able to then, when they get to more complex texts, they can enjoy them because they can understand them. In 2018, after 16 years of Labor, the government was confronted with a schooling system where everyone was working very hard and they were doing their best, and there were people working with love and with passion in their hearts to support their children. But there was not a consistent understanding of the best way to teach kids to read. And so we had 43% of our students only in Year 1 meeting the 20 out of 40 expected achievement for our children in South Australian schools. That lifted to 52% in the second year, and this year it was very pleasing to announce a couple of weeks ago, maybe last week, that that had lifted again to 63%. Still much more work to do, but a dramatic step forward from 2018 when we came into government. What that has seen, those results have surprised many teachers and many principals across the system, and that has led to them having a look at the science of reading, having a look at what works in schools and what has worked in other schools, and they've changed their practice. Schools are now working on whole school literacy approaches. We have had professional development, which the government has provided, and teachers have warmly embraced, and we've given them the TRT time to enable them to do that professional development and to do the checks. And then for those 37% of students who aren't at the mark where we want them them to be, we've also provided the opportunity for them to get that specialist intervention. So much more to do, but by goodness, our education system is on the right track, and I'm so proud of our teachers and our schools here in South Australia.